Join me as I take on the challenge of turning my biggest criticisms into my greatest strengths. Let's see if I can really make it happen. Criticism, the ultimate buzzkill, right? We've all been there, receiving words that cut deep, making us question our abilities, our judgments, and our very selves. It's natural to feel defensive, to want to shrink away, or even lash out when someone points out our flaws. But what if I told you there's a way to flip that script, to turn those harsh words into a catalyst for growth, for improvement, and for ultimate success? Think about it, criticism is an inevitable part of life. Whether it's from a boss, a friend, or even a stranger on social media, it's going to come. And when it does, how we respond is what sets us apart. Do we let it define us, or do we let it fuel us? Unfortunately, more often than not, we let criticism get the best of us. We internalize it, we dwell on it, and we let it dictate our next moves. But what if we could shift that paradigm? When criticism comes knocking, we have a choice, to react or to respond. Reaction is instinctual, emotional, and often knee-jerk. It's the fight or flight response, and it rarely leads to productive outcomes. Response, on the other hand, is thoughtful, measured, and intentional. It's the difference between being reactive and being proactive. So, how do we make that switch? How do we turn criticism from a source of pain into a source of power? Most of us have a natural inclination to respond defensively when faced with criticism. It's human nature, after all. But that defensiveness can be a major roadblock to growth. When we're too busy defending ourselves, we can't hear the underlying message, the nugget of truth that might just be hidden beneath the surface. Defensiveness also leads to discouragement. We take criticism personally, and it can be debilitating. We start to question our abilities, our passions, and our very sense of purpose. And before we know it, we're stuck in a rut, unable to move forward. But what if we could learn to separate criticism from our sense of self-worth? What if we could develop a growth mindset, where criticism is viewed as an opportunity for improvement rather than an attack on our ego? The ability to handle criticism effectively is a superpower, and it's one that can be developed over time with practice, patience, and perseverance. It's about developing emotional intelligence, about being aware of our own emotional responses and learning to regulate them. It's about being open to feedback, rather than resistant to it. When we're open, we're receptive, we're curious, and we're eager to learn. We start to see criticism not as a threat, but as a chance to refine our skills, to hone our craft, and to become the best version of ourselves. When we reframe criticism in this way, we start to see the world in a different light. We start to view challenges as opportunities, rather than obstacles. And we start to develop a sense of resilience, a sense of determination, and a sense of purpose that can't be shaken. So, how do we make this shift? How do we turn criticism into a driving force for success? One of the most powerful techniques I've found is to view criticism as constructive feedback. It's about assuming good intent, even when the delivery might be rough around the edges. It's about finding the kernel of truth at the heart of the criticism, and using that to fuel our growth. It's also about self-reflection, about being willing to look inward and confront our own weaknesses. It's about being honest with ourselves, and acknowledging areas where we need improvement. When we do this, we start to see criticism not as a personal attack, but as a call to action. When we combine this self-reflection with an openness to feedback, we start to see dramatic changes. We start to grow, we start to learn, and we start to thrive. One of the most inspiring examples of this is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. She faced crippling criticism early on in her writing career, with one publisher after another rejecting her manuscript. But she didn't let that criticism define her. Instead, she used it as fuel to refine her craft, to perfect her storytelling, and ultimately to create a literary phenomenon that's beloved by millions. What if we could all tap into that same resilience, that same determination? What if we could all learn to view criticism as a catalyst for growth, rather than a source of pain? The key takeaway here is that criticism is not the enemy. In fact, it's often our greatest ally, pushing us to become better versions of ourselves. So, the next time you receive criticism, take a deep breath, and try to reframe it as constructive feedback. View it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to improve. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to listen, to adapt, and to evolve. In conclusion, turning criticism into a strength requires a mindset shift, a willingness to listen, and a commitment to growth. It's not easy, but the rewards are well worth it. Thanks for joining me on this journey today. If you've ever struggled with criticism, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And if you're looking for more tips on building resilience, be sure to check out my next video.